I was born and raised in a farm near Tara, and live in Old Sound now. My older brother, Russell, was 2 years older than me, and we grew up on the farm together. And he graduated from continuation school in the village and stayed at home a year on the farm. The time I finished my second year of continuation school. I had dreamed of being a doctor myself, like my uncle and my great uncle before him, but Russell decided he didn't want to farm and he went back to school. So I stopped school at the end of grade 10. Helped out my dad and mother. They'd paid off for 3 mortgages during the Depression, and I felt it wasn't fair for us to take off. So he got his grade 13 in Old Sound and enlisted in the Air Force and was graduated at Uplands in Ottawa. His cousin, Bev Seffen, who was a veteran of the First World War, Royal Flying Corps, was a flight lieutenant at the time of Russell's graduation, and he pinned his wings on him. And he went to England then, and he trained as a bomber pilot in Scotland. And then he was with the number 6 bomber group. I think it was known as the Lee Side Squadron, and it was based with Yorkshire in England with many other Canadian squadrons. And the first flight over Germany was on Christmas Eve. Oh, not actually in Germany. The battle was the Battle of the Bulge. Okay. The Germans had cut off a bunch of Allied troops and had control of an airfield, and his squadron was assigned to destroy this airfield. Shortly after they took off, a fire broke out in his plane with a full load of bombs and full load of fuel over the North Sea, and there was no turning back. The policy was that you got through to your objective, and if you got back safely, that was secondary consideration. But anyway, his crew fought the flames and got it out, and they successfully made the run and bombed the airfield, and apparently got excellent pictures. So between that and Easter Sunday, he was promoted 3 times, and as a flight lieutenant, he was a deputy flight commander of the second wave of his squadron that went in to bomb a German submarine base in the North Sea. Apparently the Germans had cracked submarines, the best available, but they were shortage of fuel. And they needed special permission to take off, and they weren't given permission to take off for the first 2 flights. But the third flight, they got permission, and they wiped out a significant number. But the war was, he had made 34 trips with his crew, and they were from all over Canada. He had one of his crew was from Quebec, and one was wheat farmer from Manitoba. And the guys were all probably 22, 23 years old, except one older chap who was a navigator. Okay. Their squadron was considered to be, or their crew was considered to be a very top flight crew, and that's why they were promoted. And so we came home there and expected to go to the Pacific. And the understanding was he was going to be promoted to a squadron leader, but the war got over, and he graduated at Teachers College before he went into the Air Force. So he started at University of Toronto, and spent 2 years in honor arts, thinking he might become a high school teacher. But then he switched to medicine, and he graduated as a medical doctor. And about the time that his uncle, who had been a survivor of the First World War, had set up a medical practice in Michigan, Flat Rock, 30 miles south of Detroit. So Uncle Harvin convinced Russell and his wife, Robin, to go over there with a practice, and they stayed there. But it turned out that, in my opinion, and he says now himself, he would have been better off to stay in Canada. The American healthcare system is a headache, and time he should have been retiring, he was approached by a corporation that owned several hospitals in the downriver area and convinced several GPs like him to become part of the organization. And he was then put in an assistant to ease the burden from his busy practice, but he apparently had the financial liability to pay that person's remuneration, and that person was a misfit and drove away enough patients that he went through a personal bankruptcy when he should have been retiring at 70. Now he's retired. Flat Rock must have been 30 miles south each side. And he said could have bypassed our part of the operation and survived. And it's out west to visit his found member of the wheat farmer, and he was to the museum, I believe, in Ontario somewhere, probably Belleville, where they have a Halifax bomber. He flew Halifax, and I believe they dug up out of a fjord in Norway and rebuilt it. And he said the crew gathered in front of this huge plane, and they couldn't believe that this bunch of young guys had managed this plane. Their bomb load apparently of the Halifax was 3 times as much as the American flying fortresses. We heard so much of the American flying fortresses. Canadian squadrons, I understand it, bombed at night, and a lot of American squadrons bombed at day. The 3 boys from the Terror Area and Air Group. One was shot by the Germans when his plane was shot down dropping supplies to Polish underground. One was killed in a 1,000-ton raid Cologne, and the other was killed in a training accident. So one of the 3, he survived. Convinced him to put together the story of his life, and more of that is in detail.